The Last Voyage of the Demeter review, a Dracula movie that's intriguingly old-fashioned until its conventional megaplex demon shows up. André Ovredel adapts a section of Bram Stoker's Dracula into what feels like a Sea Voyage studio drama from 1966. But his golem with teeth vampire is right out of the visual effects factory. The Last Voyage of the Demeter has a terrible title, but in theory the film sounds intriguing. It wants to be an old-fashioned monster movie, the kind they used to produce back when horror films were actual movies, made with the stodgy well-carpentered rhythm that any movie was made with. The Last Voyage of the Demeter is set in 1897, and for most of it we're aboard a large wooden merchant ship with multiple sails, the Demeter, a handsome relic, since this is already the era when metal ships were coming in, that's sailing from Bulgaria to London. The film moves slowly and deliberately, and it's been shot like some Studio Sea Voyage period drama from 1966. Much of it is incredibly, knowingly square, with each crew member defined by one or two traits. But this is not just any ship or any monster. The film was adapted from the A Captain's Logged section of Bram Stoker's Dracula, which chronicles what happens after Dracula stows himself aboard the Demeter to travel to London. There are 50 shipping crates aboard, all shaped like coffins and filled with dirt. And Dracula haunts the vessel like the most spectral of demons, or, at least, he did in the novel and in the shipboard sequence of Nosferatu, 1922, where Max Schreck famously played the vampire as a skeletal nightmare zombie aristocrat with stick-like teeth and febrile eyes staring out of his bald rat's head. The strange thing about The Last Voyage of the Demeter is that the old-fashioned atmosphere goes right out the window whenever Dracula shows up. In this one, he's a fast-moving goblin-like creature, with a devil's head atop a spindly body, which makes him resemble a medieval stone gargoyle crossed with golem crossed with some razor-toothed animalistic demon out of a Jason Blum horror movie. He's played by an actor, the creature specialist Javier Botet, but mostly he seems a product of the visual effects department. There are shock cuts and savage montages as he rips into the throat of a crew member. Historically, few monsters are more human than Dracula, that's why he's such a powerful metaphorical figure, and you'd think a film that so meticulously set itself up as an antique shipboard yarn would have paid homage to that side of Dracula. You'd think it would have tried to make him a touch poetic. That's certainly what I would have expected from the Norwegian-born director André Ovredel, who in a movie like Trollhunter showed that he could cast a spell of ominous fairy-tale weirdness. Dracula, in its deathly way, is a fairy tale. But The Last Voyage of the Demeter gives strictly prose, and rather plotting prose at that. I appreciated the film's willingness to take its time, but as Dracula knocks off one crew member after the next, we seem to be watching some rotely garish and not all that scary 19th-century version of Alien, or maybe a Mutiny on the Bounty remade as a slasher film. Most of the performances are corny enough to feel at home in a pirate movie. There's the noble old-world captain, Liam Cunningham, the nasty Russian, Nikolai Nikolaev, the callow lady killer, Chris Wally, the paranoid captain's mate, David Dastmalchian, the adult chef, John Briones, and the captain's innocent young son, Woody Norman. But Corey Hawkins, who has the lead role of Clemens, a physician trained at Cambridge who's been shut out of medicine because of his race, has a saturnine glare and a lithe quickness of mind the movie could have used more of. Clemens believes in science and nature, he's enthralled to learning about the world. The presence of a vampire kind of messes with his view, and the drama, what there is of it, emerges from how the film makes this demonic intrusion feels unprecedented. Clemens discovers a stowaway, Anna Aisling Franciosi, who is catatonic with infection, and he uses infusions of his own blood to nurse her back to life. But she never completely recovers, and the other crew members keep showing up as clawed mincemeat. They might survive for a while, but then, instead of turning into vampires, each bitten person has a moment of spontaneous combustion, with embers rising out of their bodies to consume them. That's the most poetic thing in the movie. The rest of the time, The Last Voyage of the Demeter is too explicit, too dawdling yet rapid-fire, too much like other horror films.